Welcome back to the deep dive. So, I want to start today by having you imagine something for a second.
Okay.
Imagine waking up on a Tuesday, right? You're running a massive global bank or maybe a critical government department here in the UK.
Sure.
And you find out that the core technology your entire daily operation relies on has just been, well, legally barred from use.
Just completely shut down.
Exactly. The lights just went out. And that is exactly what happened recently when the U.S. Commerce Department suddenly ordered Anthropic to disable its top-tier AI models.
Right. The Fable 5 and Mythos 5 models.
Yeah, disabled for all foreign nationals worldwide.
Yeah.
Just, one order from Washington. And the foundation of the UK's AI boom almost vanished in the space of like 72 hours.
It was a pretty brutal realization for the market, honestly, because, we spent the last few years watching the UK adopt artificial intelligence at this blistering pace.
Oh, absolutely. I think Google itself called it a tipping point of adoption.
Yeah, that's the exact phrase. Businesses are weaving these models into their most sensitive workflows every single day. And yet, this Anthropic saga laid bare this really striking vulnerability.
Which is really the core mission of our deep dive today, right?
Yeah.
This idea that control is the new currency of AI.
It is. Control is everything right now because the UK has almost none of it. The technology is here, the adoption is super aggressive, but the actual levers of control.
Like the infrastructure, the base models, all of that.
Exactly. The rules of engagement. They are all held entirely by foreign powers.
Right. So if you're listening to this today, whether you're running a business and you're trying to decide between hiring AI specialists or just training your whole staff, or honestly, if you're just trying to figure out if you can trust the AI that's summarizing your pension options.
Which is a real thing happening right now.
Yeah. This deep dive is going to map out exactly who is holding the steering wheel and why it might not be who you think.
Yeah. So to kind of lay out the roadmap for us today, first we're going to examine that geopolitical off switch we just mentioned, the one that panicked the UK market.
The 72-hour flip.
Right. Then we'll look at the illusion of the open source escape hatch. After that, we're going to dive into how the shift to what's called agentic AI is totally outrunning corporate oversight.
That part is terrifying, honestly.
It really is. And then we'll look at the massive workforce gamble that UK banks are making right now. And finally, we'll see what happens when these exact tensions hit the real world, in the public sector and in our daily lives.
Okay, so let's start with the foundations. Because to really understand the UK's AI adoption risks, we have to look at how that foundation can just vanish overnight.
Yeah, let's unpack the Anthropic saga.
So breaking down the facts from the sources, the U.S. Commerce Department orders Anthropic to shut off Fable 5 and Mythos 5. And they didn't just do this out of nowhere. They cited these very specific fears about the models being diverted to military intelligence in China or Russia.
Right. It was framed entirely as a national security issue.
Yeah. And the immediate response from Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer was to go to Washington and ask for a carve-out, like a special UK exemption.
And how did that go?
Well, initially, the U.S. flatly refused. The sources actually say their response was that there was zero chance of an exemption.
Wow. Zero chance.
Yeah. But then, within 72 hours, Donald Trump reverses course entirely. He tells Axios that Anthropic is no longer a security threat, and he actually praises the CEO, Dario Amodei.
Right. And this is where we really have to look past those surface-level headlines. We have to examine how geopolitical power actually operates in the digital age.
What do you mean?
Well, the narrative presented to the public was this total, indiscriminate global shutdown.
Yeah, that the U.S. slammed the door on everyone.
Exactly. But when you look at the underlying data from the sources, the off switch wasn't this technical mechanism applied uniformly across the internet. It was highly selective. It was a deeply political maneuver.
Oh, give me an example.
Take ENISA. That's Europe's main cybersecurity agency.
Right.
They had been explicitly invited to test these Mythos 5 models, to find security vulnerabilities. But when the Commerce Department order came down, ENISA was completely cut off.
Just left flying blind.
Completely. But at the exact same time, American cybersecurity firms weren't cut off at all.
Wait, really?
Yeah. U.S. firms like Cisco and Dragos, they secretly retained their access to the Mythos preview. They were operating under this discrete initiative called the Glasswing program.
Oh, wow. So the U.S. government didn't actually destroy the capability of the AI.
No, not at all. They simply redefined who was permitted to look at it. They weaponized access.
That is wild. And I want to focus on the immediate business fallout of that, right? Because it wasn't just cybersecurity agencies feeling this. The ripple effect hit global finance almost instantly.
Well, banking was in chaos.
Yeah. The sources note that J.P. Morgan had to immediately block its own Hong Kong staff from using Anthropic's Claude models. And this wasn't because the Hong Kong staff were doing anything wrong.
Right. It was purely due to the sudden shift in Anthropic's licensing terms regarding foreign access.
Exactly. And Goldman Sachs had already been forced into similar defensive posturing. It just highlights how utterly fragile cross-border banking operations are right now.
Well, yeah, think about it. You have global financial institutions trying to build these unified international workflows.
Right.
They want an analyst in London, a risk manager in New York, and an auditor in Hong Kong, all using the same foundational AI to process data.
Which makes sense. Yeah.
But when Washington decides to draw a digital border overnight, that unified workflow just fractures. The bank suddenly has a massive compliance crisis. They are legally required to stop their own employees from opening an application.
It's crazy. It's an amazing analogy to think about. It's like building this massive state-of-the-art factory. But the landlord living in another country has a remote control to your main power breaker.
Yeah.
And their finger is constantly hovering over the button.
That is exactly what it feels like for a chief technology officer right now.
Yeah. Because even though Trump reversed the ban in 72 hours, if I'm a CTO at a British company, that 72-hour window doesn't reassure me at all.
No, it terrifies you.
Right. The fact that the core infrastructure of my business depends on the changing moods of an American administration on a Tuesday, that's an intolerable operational risk.
And that is exactly why the political establishment is just scrambling for a permanent fix right now.
Like the trusted partner thing.
Exactly. At the recent G7 summit, we saw really heavy negotiations led by U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. They're trying to put together a trusted partner framework.
Okay, so how does that work?
Basically, the proposition is that the U.S. will grant select allied nations guaranteed access to these top-tier AI models, which supposedly sidesteps any future export bans.
But I mean, isn't that just codifying the dependency?
How do you mean?
Well, if the UK has to sit at a table and negotiate to become a trusted partner, it basically implies that access to this foundational technology is just a privilege granted by Washington.
Right.
It's not a fundamental right, and it's certainly not a domestic capability. It's essentially us acknowledging that the U.S. owns the utility company, and we are just begging them not to cut our power.
That is the exact tension that dominated both the G7 and the VivaTech conference recently. Because this realization has dawned that tech sovereignty isn't just some theoretical debate for academics anymore.
No, it's a real, urgent vulnerability.
And this anxiety has generated some pretty extreme reactions in European policy circles.
Yeah, it really generated a wave of panic. I mean, looking at the sources, there was this highly circulated essay titled Europe 2031 that just went viral among policymakers.
Oh, in Brussels and Whitehall, everywhere.
Right. And it painted this bleak doomsday scenario of a ruined, economically irrelevant Europe by the year 2031.
Yeah, and the argument was that this would be the direct result of failing to build domestic AI and data centers, while the U.S. and China just pulled away.
And when the Anthropic ban happened, the authors of that piece felt completely vindicated.
They did. They felt very vindicated. But we really have to scrutinize the foundational data of your argument here, because fear often drives really poor policy analysis.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the core examples that think tank used to prove this insurmountable U.S. dominance, they were heavily flawed.
Extremely flawed.
They based their whole projection of American supremacy on two massive proposed deals. One was a $100 billion OpenAI NVIDIA hardware deal.
Right. Yeah.
And the other was a $300 billion OpenAI Oracle data center deal. But the reporting confirms that those deals actually collapsed.
Yes.
They're considered highly doubtful by industry insiders.
Yeah.
So the entire Europe 2031 doomsday prophecy was built on press releases and hypothetical mega deals that didn't even materialize.
Exactly. It is so essential to separate geopolitical panic from commercial reality right now. The U.S. is undeniably dominant, yes.
Sure.
But it is not invincible. And these $100 billion infrastructure projects face massive logistical and financial hurdles.
Right. But, I mean, even if the doomsday paper was flawed, the core question for you, the listener, remains totally valid.
Oh, 100%.
If you're building your company's core workflow on an API that pings a server in California, how do you price in the risk of a foreign administration changing its mind?
You really can't, because the truce with Anthropic right now is completely informal. The statutory power to enact those export bans still exists on the books.
Okay, so let's logically follow that thread. If relying on an American API means Washington can pull the plug, the obvious boardroom reaction is going to be, fine, we'll just build it ourselves.
Right, the pivot to sovereignty.
Yeah. If closed U.S. models are a liability, the logical move for the U.K. and Europe is to pursue sovereign AI. We build our own data centers, we train our own models, we maintain total control.
That is the theory, yes. But the pursuit of digital sovereignty is driving some incredibly aggressive and, frankly, brutally expensive decisions right now, especially across the channel.
Yeah, France seems to be acting as the primary test case for this.
They really are.
The sources detail how the French Domestic Intelligence Agency, the DGSI, is currently in the process of dropping the American data analytics giant Palantir.
Which is a huge deal.
Massive. They are replacing them with a French supplier named Chaps Vision, and they are explicitly citing the need to avoid strategic dependency.
Right.
But what stands out to me in the sources is the sheer cost of this move, because they had actually just renewed Palantir's contract.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Meaning this migration to a domestic supplier is going to take several years, and it requires massive financial and logistical resources.
Because it's not just a software update.
No, it is a total, painful architectural overhaul of an intelligence agency.
And the commercial sector in France is attempting the exact same pivot.
Are they really?
Yeah. The French cloud provider OVH Cloud is reportedly spending between 150 and 200 million euros to pre-train frontier AI models on Europe's Jupiter supercomputer.
Wow.
They are basically trying to brute force a European alternative to the American giants. But this brings us to the brutal economics of tech sovereignty.
Okay, lay out the economics for me.
So Capgemini presented data at VivaTech recently. They noted that utilizing European sovereign cloud alternatives currently demands a 40% premium compared to U.S. providers.
40%.
40% premium. Sovereignty is not free.
But, okay, let me challenge that for a second. Isn't a 40% premium entirely justified if it guarantees your core systems won't get switched off?
Well,
Like if I'm running national infrastructure or a regulated bank, paying 40% more for an insurance policy against a 72-hour blackout seems kind of rational.
okay, it is a valid insurance policy for an intelligence agency like the DGSI.
Right.
For them, national security totally eclipses cost. But for a mid-sized UK logistics firm or a regional bank,
Yeah, sir.
a 40% premium on your foundational compute costs will absolutely destroy your margins. You are asking commercial enterprises to shoulder a massive financial burden to mitigate a geopolitical risk that, honestly, often feels very abstract to their daily operations.
That makes sense.
And it actually gets worse. Because even if you were willing to pay that 40% premium, you might not actually be buying sovereignty at all.
Right, because the hardware supply chains are fundamentally global anyway.
Exact.
The sources mentioned this Open UK roundtable where experts were raising alarms about this practice they're calling sovereign washing.
Yeah, it's the national security equivalent of greenwashing.
Which is such a great term for it. It occurs when a government or a corporation fixates entirely on where an AI supplier is headquartered, but they completely ignore the deeper dependencies of the tech stack.
Sovereign washing is perhaps the most dangerous illusion in this entire debate right now.
Because you think you're safe.
Right. You might sign a contract with an AI company registered in London or Paris. You pay your 40% premium. You feel secure.
Yeah.
But if that European model was trained on American data centers, utilizing American-designed microchips that were manufactured in Taiwan, and it relies on an American cloud infrastructure backend to actually operate.
Are you genuinely sovereign?
Exactly. Or have you just purchased American dependency with a local flag slapped on the box?
That is such a good point. It really makes the whole concept of putting a national flag on an AI model seems slightly absurd.
It is absurd.
I mean, look at the Model Context Protocol, the MCP, which is detailed in the sources.
Right, the NCP.
For context, this is a crucial new open standard developers use to connect AI systems to local data sources.
Yeah.
And it was built by an Austrian developer working out of London.
Exactly. The talent, the code repositories, the open source libraries, they are inherently borderless.
Which naturally brings us to the obvious alternative to building an entirely new European infrastructure from scratch, right? Open source AI.
The supposed escape hatch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you want to escape the US off switch, you don't have to build a multi-million euro model yourself. You can just download an open source model and run it locally on your own servers.
If the model lives on your servers, no foreign government can remotely disable it.
Exact.
But This escape route leads directly into a profound catch-22, and it's driven by the week's biggest technological disruption.
Okay, yes. We have to talk about the GLM 5.2 bombshell.
We do.
So a company called ZAI just released this open source model, GLM 5.2, and it sent absolute shockwaves through the developer community.
It really did.
And to understand why this is such a big deal, we have to look at the mechanics, right? The sources highlight that GLM 5.2 boasts a 1 million token context window.
Right, and let's explain what that actually means in practice for the listener, because the context window is really the defining metric of utility for an AI model right now.
Okay, break it down.
A token is essentially a piece of a word. So a 1 million token context window equals roughly 750,000 words.
Which is massive.
It is the equivalent of handing the AI 5 thick novels, or an entire massive corporate software code base, or a decade's worth of complex legal contracts.
Wow.
And you are asking it to hold all of that information in its active memory simultaneously.
So instead of just asking a chatbot a quick question, a business can just upload their entire proprietary database into the model's memory, and the AI can analyze the whole thing at once.
Exactly. And GLM 5.2 is doing this at a level that is comparable to the absolute top-tier closed U.S. models, like Anthropic's Claude Opus.
That is wild for an open source model.
It is a massive leap forward, and the praise from Silicon Valley executives has been effusive. I mean, the CEO of Vercel publicly stated he was almost shocked at how proficient the model is at complex coding tasks.
Okay, so the model is amazing. It's open source. What's the catch-22?
Here is where it solidifies for the UK. If we analyze the open source models that are actually winning adoption right now, the models developers actually want to build on.
Yeah.
We're talking about DeepSeek, Tencent, Xiaomi, and now ZAI's GLM 5.2.
Right.
They all share one defining characteristic. They are predominantly Chinese.
Oh, wow. That is a staggering trade-off.
It is.
So if you are a British enterprise trying to navigate this landscape, your options are basically incredibly bleak.
They are.
On one hand, you can rely on closed American models and just accept the risk that the U.S. Commerce Department might sever your access on a whim.
Right.
Or on the other hand, you can pursue tech sovereignty by downloading the most capable open source models to host on your own servers.
Yep.
But because the highest performing open source architecture is emerging from Chinese labs, you are acquiring a massive new layer of geopolitical provenance risk.
Exactly. You run from the threat of a Washington off switch straight into the architecture of Beijing. You're simply trading one dependency for another.
Man, that is grim. But wait, why can't the UK easily break this cycle by simply building a British equivalent to GLM 5.2?
Because of the absolute monopoly on human capital.
A talent pool.
Yes. We talk endlessly about computing power and data center infrastructure, but the actual human beings capable of architecting these frontier models, they are incredibly scarce.
Yeah, the sources highlight a perfect example of this talent bottleneck, the story of Noam Shazir.
A fascinating trajectory.
Truly. It illustrates the whole economics of the AI talent war. So Shazir is one of the co-authors of the original 2017 research paper that basically created the architecture for the generative AI boom we have today.
The foundational paper, yeah.
So he leaves Google to start his own independent AI company. And then, less than 2 years ago, Google paid $2.7 billion to acquire his startup.
Right, but the industry consensus is that they didn't really want the startup's product.
No, they paid $2.7 billion essentially just to acquire Shazir and his core team, to bring them back in-house to lead Google's Gemini AI project.
Which is just a staggering sum of money for talent acquisition.
And the crazy culmination of that story is that he is now leaving Google again to join OpenAI.
Right. So consider the implications of that for a sovereign AI strategy. The UK government can allocate funding for supercomputers all day long. They can write comprehensive regulatory frameworks.
Sure.
But the human talent capable of writing the math that makes these systems function, they are concentrated in a handful of zip codes in California. And these individuals are the subjects of 9-figure, sometimes 10-figure talent acquisition wars. If you do not have the Noam Shazirs of the world working in your sovereign AI labs, your project is structurally capped before it even begins.
Okay, so just to recap where we are, we have established a baseline of profound vulnerability.
Yes.
UK businesses do not control the base models. The best open source alternatives are Chinese. And the top-tier talent is locked up in Silicon Valley.
That's the landscape.
And yet, despite all of this, the rollout just continues at a blistering pace. British companies are plowing ahead.
They are.
But And this is the really critical part. They are no longer just deploying standard generative AI.
Yeah.
The technology itself is evolving, and it is fundamentally altering the liability landscape for these companies.
Yes, we are witnessing the rapid shift from generative AI to agentic AI, and this is the most critical operational shift we will discuss today.
Because it changes the paradigm of what AI actually is within a corporate structure. So generative AI is relatively passive. You, the human, type a prompt into a text box, and the AI generates text or code or an image in response.
Right. It advises, it drafts, but you decide what to do with the output.
But agentic AI refers to systems designed to take autonomous actions on your behalf.
Right.
They don't just draft an email, they send it. They don't just summarize a financial report. They execute a trade based on the findings.
They utilize tools, they call APIs, they navigate software environments completely independently to achieve a goal you have set for them.
And the market for these agents is just exploding right now. I mean, Salesforce recently acquired an AI agent platform called Fin for $3.6 billion.
Specifically to bolster their Agentforce product line.
Yes. And that Agentforce division has already tripled its revenue to $1.2 billion.
It's massive.
Simultaneously, Deloitte has launched this huge London AI studio in partnership with Google Cloud. And their entire stated mission is to help UK companies deploy these autonomous agentic systems into their operations in just 4 weeks.
4 weeks. And the speed of deployment is exactly what alarms governance specialists.
Why is that?
Because the shift from generative to agentic represents a profound shift in risk. Think about it. When a traditional generative chatbot hallucinates and gives incorrect advice to a customer, it's an embarrassing error.
Sure, it's a bad PR look.
Yeah.
Maybe a customer service intervention.
Right. But when an agentic system hallucinates, when it autonomously executes a bad financial trade, or declines a mortgage loan based on flawed reasoning, or when it flags a perfectly legal transaction for money laundering without any human oversight, that is a massive structural compliance failure.
And according to the sources, highly regulated industries in the UK are just not prepared for this transition. Governance experts are warning that banks and major law firms are essentially sleepwalking into disaster.
They really are.
They are deploying AI agents into critical workflows like KYC, Know Your Customer, and underwriting processes way faster than their internal compliance teams can possibly audit them.
And we can trace this directly back to the regulatory frameworks they're relying on.
Okay, unpack that for me.
Well, in the banking sector, the U.S. Federal Reserve recently replaced a long-standing 15-year-old model risk framework known as SR 11-7.
Okay.
They replaced it with a new framework designated SR 26-2. And the crisis stems from the fact that many financial institutions are assuming their existing traditional risk guardrails, the ones built for the old SR 11-7, are sufficient for these new autonomous agents.
But wait, why do those old frameworks fail? I mean, a risk model is a risk model, isn't it?
No, because the fundamental nature of the software has completely changed.
How so?
Traditional software and traditional statistical models are deterministic.
Determinists.
Think of them like a train on a track. If you put the exact same data into the model, the train follows the exact same track, and you get the exact same result every single time. It is entirely predictable.
Okay, that makes sense.
But generative and agentic AI are probabilistic. They calculate the most likely next step based on massive arrays of data.
So it's not a train track.
No, think of it like a pinball machine. You pull the plunger with your prompt, but the ball bounces off different bumpers every single time. Even with the exact same input, you might get a slightly different path to the outcome.
Oh, wow.
So you simply cannot apply a framework designed for a train track to a pinball machine.
That is a brilliant analogy. And this probabilistic nature is causing total chaos in the legal sector as well, according to the sources.
Oh, absolutely.
There was a report from the Positive Group that analyzed the adoption of AI in City of London law firms. They found that 60% of city lawyers are now using AI for drafting documents and conducting legal research.
Sounds efficient.
It does. But these lawyers are operating under immense billable hour pressure. They are incredibly time poor. So as a result, they are just accepting the AI outputs uncritically. The report explicitly labels this a crisis of judgment.
Because it is eroding the entire foundation of legal training.
Right.
The traditional apprenticeship model in law relies on junior lawyers doing the grueling manual work of document review. By reading thousands of pages of contracts, they slowly build the mental architecture required for complex legal judgment.
Yeah, you learn by doing the boring stuff.
Exactly. But if an AI agent executes the document review in 10 seconds, the junior lawyer never develops that critical thinking muscle. They just become editors of AI output rather than architects of legal strategy.
And this brings us to a quote from the governance experts
Hmm.
in the sources that I think just perfectly isolates the compliance nightmare these firms are facing.
Which quote?
They warned that probabilistic compliance is not compliance, and they further stated that prompt-based guardrails are intent, not enforcement.
That is such a vital distinction. Intent, not enforcement.
Right, because many companies believe they are governing their AI agents by simply typing instructions into the system prompt.
Yeah, they tell the AI, you are a compliance officer, do not approve loans that show signs of fraud.
Right, they basically just ask the AI to behave.
Yes, but that is just intent. Because the AI is probabilistic, it does not follow rigid, immutable logic gates. It can, and eventually it will, deviate from the prompt.
Wow.
Regulators are finally beginning to understand this, and they are demanding what is called runtime telemetry.
Runtime telemetry. Okay, let me make sure I understand the mechanics of this using your analogy.
Go for it.
If traditional software is a train, we know exactly how it got to the station because there is only one track.
Exactly.
But because AI is a pinball machine, we can't just look at the final score and assume we know how it happened.
Nope.
We need, cameras recording the entire pinball board, tracking exactly which bumpers the ball hit to generate that specific score.
Yes.
And that recording is the runtime telemetry. We need the itemized receipt of the AI's internal logic.
Precisely. You cannot audit what you cannot reconstruct. If an autonomous agent declines a loan, the bank must have the ability to reconstruct exactly how and why the AI arrived at that specific decision months later during an audit.
But right now, a staggering number of UK institutions are launching the pinball without any cameras on the board.
They are deploying autonomous agents without keeping the receipts.
It sounds like we've given the intern the company credit card, told them to be careful via text message, and now we have no receipt of what they actually bought.
That is exactly what is happening.
And fixing this isn't just about buying a better AI model, is it? It fundamentally comes down to the data architecture of the business itself.
It's all about the data plumbing.
Yeah. The Government Digital Service, the GDS, partnered with the National Archives to run a pilot program analyzing the bottlenecks to AI adoption in the public sector.
And what did they find?
Their conclusion was stark. They said the primary obstacle isn't the AI model at all, it's the data. The quote was, "Good data managed poorly is not AI ready."
Which circles right back to the model context protocol we discussed earlier.
Oh, right.
Because the foundational models themselves, whether it's Anthropic, OpenAI, or a Chinese open source alternative, they are rapidly becoming commoditized. They all offer incredible analytical capabilities.
They're all smart.
Right. So the true differentiator, the actual competitive advantage for a British business, is its internal data plumbing.
Like, is your proprietary data clean?
Exactly. Is it structured logically? Is it legally compliant with privacy regulations? And most importantly, is it formatted in a way that an AI agent can read and interact with it safely?
Because if your internal data is just a disorganized mess of overlapping PDFs and legacy databases, plugging a genius-level AI agent into it is just going to generate a mess at lightning speed.
A very confident mess.
Yeah. And this is actually creating an entirely new sub-industry. The sources note that a company called Cortea just raised over £10 million to build specialized AI audit agents.
Right, which are fascinating.
Yeah, these aren't models that generate text. They are verification layers that sit above the foundation models. They are specifically designed to monitor the agents, track the telemetry, and provide that desperately needed quality assurance.
Which naturally brings us to the human element of this entire transition.
The workforce.
Yeah. If the technology is evolving into autonomous agents and the governance gap is widening because we lack the telemetry and the clean data to manage them, how are UK businesses preparing their actual human workforce for this reality?
Well, the sources show that they are making massive and entirely conflicting bets.
Very conflicting.
I really want to look at what's being called the Great Workforce Wager happening right now in the UK banking sector, because we are seeing two wildly divergent philosophies on how to survive the AI transition.
Yeah, it's essentially buy the elite specialists versus train the masses.
Exactly. And the contrast between Lloyds Banking Group and NatWest perfectly illustrates this divide.
Let's look at Lloyds first.
So Lloyds is currently engaged in a massive hiring spree. They are actively recruiting 300 dedicated, highly paid tech specialists whose sole focus will be building and deploying agentic AI by September.
And this elite strike team is being added to an already existing 1,000-person AI division.
Right. Lloyds is throwing massive financial resources at top-tier talent, and they're projecting that this specialized team will deliver a £100 million boost to their balance sheet this year alone.
So they are treating artificial intelligence as a highly sophisticated weapon.
Yeah.
In their view, it is a specialized tool to be wielded by an elite cadre of engineers to drive immediate, measurable revenue and operational efficiency. And the broader workforce just continues their normal duties while the SWAT team handles the AI.
But then you have NatWest taking the exact opposite approach.
Complete opposite end of the spectrum.
They aren't just hiring a SWAT team. NatWest is forcing its entire workforce, all 60,000 employees, from frontline tellers to the executive board, to complete a comprehensive 2 to 3 month AI ethics and literacy course.
Developed in partnership with Edinburgh University, I believe.
Yes, exactly.
See, NatWest's philosophy suggests they view AI not as a weapon, but as a fundamental shift in the commercial environment itself.
Like it's the new water they are swimming in.
Exactly. They believe that mass literacy, ensuring every single employee understands the mechanics of hallucination, the risks of data privacy, the ethical pitfalls of automation bias, that is the only viable defense against the governance failures we just discussed.
Because if the junior lawyer doesn't understand that the AI is probabilistic, they will just trust it blindly.
Right. NatWest is basically trying to inoculate its entire workforce against blind trust.
But the terrifying reality is that, regardless of which training strategy these banks choose, the leadership is operating under a massive delusion regarding their actual readiness.
Oh, the KPMG survey.
Yes. The sources include this survey from KPMG that exposes what we can only call the confidence illusion. According to the data, 93% of UK bank executives stated they are confident they could successfully operate their bank through a major AI outage or failure.
A 93% confidence rate is staggering.
It is, especially when you cross-reference it with the operational data in the very same survey.
Exactly.
Because while 93% claim they are ready for a crisis, only 47% of them have actually run a test of their AI disruption protocols.
And incredibly, 26% of these highly confident executives have never run a test at all.
Not even once.
They are absolutely certain they can survive a catastrophic failure of autonomous systems they do not fully control based on zero empirical testing.
It is the definition of sleepwalking into a systemic crisis. And while the executives project this unearned confidence, the broader workforce is experiencing profound anxiety.
Understandably so.
Yeah. A recent survey of over 2,000 businesses in London revealed that employers' confidence in their staff's AI skills plummeted from 63% down to 50% in the span of just 1 year.
Because the technology is accelerating so rapidly that the workforce feels they are perpetually falling behind.
And that anxiety over skills inevitably translates into terror over job security.
Of course.
At the Viva Tech conference, Amazon founder Jeff Bezos offered this highly optimistic, billionaire-centric view of this dynamic.
He claimed AI won't cause job losses, right?
Yeah, he claimed that AI is not going to cause job losses. Instead, he argued it will create widespread labor shortages.
His logic being that there is an infinite amount of human tasks that need doing, and AI will simply lower the barrier to executing those tasks, which leads to an explosion of productivity and hiring.
Which is a lovely, comforting macroeconomic theory.
But it is completely detached from the immediate microeconomic reality presented in our source.
Completely detached. I want to push back on Bezos heavily here using the source data.
Go ahead.
Bezos tells a crowd in Paris that there will be no job losses. But the actual data shows that U.S. employers announced over 97,000 job cuts in the month of May alone.
Wow.
And of those 97,000 layoffs, a full 40% were explicitly linked to AI integration and corporate restructuring.
40.
Yes. Furthermore, Amazon itself has cut roughly 30,000 corporate roles since late last year, explicitly citing efficiency gains and AI implementation as contributing factors.
So the gap between the optimistic theory of infinite future tasks and the grim reality of mid-level managers being made redundant today is massive.
It's a chasm.
And this friction between long-term capability and short-term human displacement forces us to ask a much deeper question.
Which is,
what foundational human skills are we risking by handing so much cognitive labor over to machines so quickly?
Which brings us to a really fascinating, contrarian real-world example detailed in the sources. Norway.
Norway is effectively acting as a control group for the global AI experiment right now.
They really are. While the UK is aggressively debating how to integrate AI into classrooms to prepare children for the future economy, Norway is aggressively moving in the exact opposite direction.
They are imposing a near-total ban on generative AI for all pupils aged 6 to 13.
And they aren't just banning the software. They are actively passing legislation to purchase physical books and reverse a decade-long national trend of putting tablets in classrooms.
Because their educational authorities fear that AI allows young children to skip the vital, frustrating cognitive steps required to learn to read, write, and perform basic mathematics.
The parallels here are just striking.
It is the exact same dynamic we discussed regarding the City of London law firms.
Yes.
The junior lawyers are losing their apprenticeship model. They bypass the grueling manual document review, and as a result, they failed to build the mental architecture required for complex legal judgment.
And Norway fears that its children will lose the foundational cognitive architecture required for critical thinking if an AI agent does the heavy lifting for them too early.
You cannot outsource the struggle of learning without losing the capability that the struggle builds.
That is so true. Whether you are a 7-year-old learning fractions or a 27-year-old learn contract law, automating the struggle means automating away your own competence.
Exactly. Which brings us to the most critical juncture of our deep dive today.
Let's do it.
We have analyzed the geopolitical maneuvering, the boardroom strategies, the workforce anxiety. But what happens when these systems leave the controlled environment of a corporate test lab and hit the real world?
Right, because when the public sector deploys artificial intelligence, the gap between a genuine efficiency win and a catastrophic governance failure is no longer just about profit margins.
It becomes a matter of public safety, justice, and human rights.
So let's examine AI in the wild, because the UK public sector is currently serving as a live laboratory, showcasing both the incredible triumphs and the severe tragedies of this tech.
Let's start with the triumphs, because to be fair, the efficiency gains are undeniable in some areas.
They really are. The sources point to the DVLA, the Driver and Vehicle Licensing Agency.
Yeah.
They completely overhauled their customer service system.
Right. They replaced those agonizing, clunky, press 1 for this, press 2 for that automated phone menus
with a natural language voice system built on Google's AI. And the operational metrics are phenomenal.
They're staggering.
By allowing callers to simply state their problem in plain English to the AI, they cut the average call navigation time from 3 minutes down to just 90 seconds.
And they process 900,000 calls a month.
900,000. That is an enormous reclamation of human time and taxpayer resources.
And we see similar gains in local government, too. A new AI planning prototype is being deployed across Barnet, Camden, and Dorset councils.
Oh, the planning application tool?
Yes. It is designed to triage routine householder planning applications, simple things like loft conversions or small extensions. The goal is to slash decision times from 8 weeks down to 4 weeks.
Wow.
They have also implemented an extract tool that uses AI to digitize decades of paper-based planning records, saving the average council roughly 255 hours of manual data entry per project.
Okay, but why are these specific deployments succeeding, while others fail so spectacularly? What is the common denominator in the DVLA and the local council AI systems?
It fundamentally comes down to system design, specifically the concept of human in the loop.
Oh, okay.
In the council planning tool, the AI does the grunt work. It triages the documents, extracts the relevant data, and makes a recommendation. But a qualified human planning officer makes the final, legally binding decision.
The AI advises, the human executes.
Exactly. Similarly, the DVLA voice system routes the call quickly, but a human operator still answers the complex queries. They have not handed over autonomous execution power to the system.
And we see that same rigorous human oversight in the healthcare examples, too.
Right, in Manchester.
Yeah, the NHS there is rolling out the MD Clone Adams platform to improve kidney care. Clinicians can query massive data sets using plain English AI prompts to find treatment patterns.
But crucially, the system design mitigates risk.
Exactly. The data remains strictly in-house, isolated within existing NHS governance structures. And they utilize synthetic data.
Which is brilliant.
Yeah, these simulated data sets that perfectly mimic the statistical properties of the real patient population without containing any actual personal information. They use that for all their testing and modeling.
So they are achieving the analytical benefits of AI while maintaining an ironclad grip on patient privacy.
Right. They kept the guardrails on. The AI is a tool, not an agent.
But when institutions remove those guardrails, when they deploy AI to make autonomous judgments regarding vulnerable populations, the results are catastrophic.
And this is where we have to pivot to the dark side of public sector deployment, because the sources detail a deeply disturbing scenario within the Home Office.
Yes, the facial age estimation tool.
A leaked internal report revealed that the Home Office aggressively pushed ahead with this AI tool. The system was designed to scan the faces of migrants arriving on small boats to determine if they were adults or children.
And we have to pause here. Being classified as an adult rather than a child in the immigration system has profound, life-altering legal and welfare consequences for an asylum seeker.
It dictates everything: where they are housed, how they are processed, their fundamental legal rights.
Exactly.
And the leaked report showed that the Home Office knew the system was fundamentally flawed. It had massive documented error rates, specifically regarding sub-Saharan African girls.
The AI was so biased that it was routinely misclassifying 14-year-old girls as adults.
Let that sink in. But instead of halting the rollout to fix the algorithmic bias, the sources indicate the Home Office actually disbanded their own age estimation science advisory committee.
They actively removed the scientists who were providing the damning scrutiny.
Yes, and they awarded the £322,000 contract to deploy the system anyway. They possessed empirical evidence that the system was biased, and they deployed it for political expediency.
It is a devastating failure of institutional integrity, and we see a similarly alarming failure of judgment within law enforcement.
Oh, the Derbyshire police case.
Yeah.
This is perhaps the most shocking individual anecdote in the entire stack of sources today. A Derbyshire police officer was recently suspended for allegedly utilizing an AI chatbot to fabricate official legal documents.
It's just unbelievable.
The officer reportedly used the AI to write victim impact statements and prosecutor briefings, instructing the chatbot to use good-sounding words to ensure that rape suspects were charged.
And now the police force is having to review past cases for perverting the course of justice.
If we look at the mechanics of why this is so dangerous, it is the ultimate horrifying manifestation of the automation bias we discussed in the legal sector earlier.
Exactly.
I mean, we just spent 20 minutes dissecting how banks need runtime telemetry just to understand why an AI declined a loan. We know these probabilistic models hallucinate facts constantly.
And here we have a police officer using a hallucination-prone chatbot to author legal evidence that could deprive a citizen of their liberty.
It fundamentally short-circuits the justice system. An AI cannot witness a crime. An AI cannot swear an oath. Using a chatbot to write a victim impact statement is intellectually and legally bankrupt.
It is. The Financial Conduct Authority recently issued a stark warning that AI is making financial crime cheap, fast, and invisible. They noted that criminals are innovating their use of AI far faster than law enforcement can adapt.
But the Home Office and the Derbyshire examples illustrate a much deeper crisis than just criminals.
Absolutely.
Because it's not just criminals misusing the technology. When a police officer uses a chatbot to cut corners on complex paperwork, or when a government department overrides its own scientific safety data to appear tough on border control, it reveals a terrifying truth.
The raw capability of artificial intelligence is vastly outrunning the integrity of the institutions we trust to wield it.
And that institutional failure leads directly to a battle over public consent.
Right, because if the public does not trust the institutions using the AI, they will actively reject the technology itself.
We saw a flashpoint for this in Peterborough, where the police deployed live facial recognition vans in the city center. In just 6 hours, the AI scanned 34,000 faces against a criminal watch list.
And the deployment of live facial recognition without a dedicated, comprehensive statutory framework is a massive point of friction in the UK right now.
The public reaction in Peterborough was completely polarized. Some residents felt safer knowing the police were scanning for suspects, but many others felt they were being subjected to a digital surveillance state without ever casting a vote to approve it.
There was no public consultation, just a van with cameras appearing in the town square.
Yeah. And at the G7 summit, Sir Keir Starmer made a very astute observation regarding this exact friction.
What did he say?
Well, he noted that while the massive AI labs in Silicon Valley are busy debating the existential risks of superintelligence, the immediate domestic reality for the UK government is that without public consent, the entire AI project stalls.
He's absolutely right.
If the British public begins to view AI primarily as a tool for biased immigration enforcement, or a shortcut for fabricating police evidence, or a mechanism for unconsented mass surveillance, the societal pushback will paralyze adoption.
You simply cannot scale a technology that the public fundamentally distrusts.
Which brings this entirely massive geopolitical and corporate narrative right back to you, the listener, and your daily life.
Right.
Because the consequences of this technology aren't just isolated to border crossings or bank vaults. They are playing out on your phone, in your living room, right now.
The consumer reality.
Yes. The sources reveal an astonishing statistic regarding consumer behavior. 28 million UK adults utilized AI for personal finance advice last year.
Wow.
And specifically, 36% of 18 to 34-year-olds are actively using AI chatbots to inform their personal investment choices.
And financial experts and consumer advocates are sounding massive alarms over this trend because, as we discussed with the probabilistic nature of the models, these chatbots are generating incredibly confident, highly plausible, but completely factually incorrect advice.
They are hallucinating tax allowances, inventing pension contribution rules, and suggesting disastrous investment timelines.
The chatbot sounds exactly like a seasoned financial advisor. The tone is authoritative, but it possesses zero fiduciary accountability.
Think about the mechanics of accountability for a second. If you hire a regulated human financial advisor and they give you negligent advice that ruins your pension, you have legal recourse.
The system has a mechanism for justice. You can sue them. They have professional liability insurance.
Exactly. But if you ask an AI chatbot for tax advice, and it hallucinates a non-existent tax loophole, and you end up facing a massive penalty from HMRC.
There's no recourse.
None. The AI company's terms of service effectively state, this software is for entertainment purposes. Use at your own risk. The technology has automated the advice, but it has completely abandoned the accountability.
It's a Wild West scenario. To kind of synthesize the vast landscape we have unpacked today from this mountain of sources.
Yeah, bring it all together for us.
The United Kingdom is scaling its adoption of artificial intelligence at a truly staggering rate. We are witnessing undeniable, tangible efficiencies from 90-second DVLA phone calls to months shaved off complex public planning decisions.
The benefits are real.
They are real, but the foundation of this progress is incredibly dangerously fragile. We do not own or control the underlying frontier models. Our core infrastructure is dependent on the political moods of foreign leaders in Washington.
Right.
If we attempt to escape that dependency via open source, we find ourselves reliant on the architecture of Chinese labs. We are struggling to train a workforce that is deeply anxious about its own obsolescence.
Yeah.
And crucially, our oversight mechanisms, from banking compliance frameworks to police disciplinary procedures to consumer protection laws, are dangerously outdated for an era of autonomous probabilistic agents.
Control is the definitive currency of the AI age.
And right now, it is a currency the UK desperately lacks.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive today, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over. We have established that the defining feature of agentic AI is that it takes autonomous actions on our behalf.
It navigates systems, it makes decisions, it executes commands.
Right. But those agents are built entirely on foundational infrastructure controlled by foreign nations or on open source models with opaque geopolitical ties.
Yeah.
So consider what happens the day a critical UK national interest, whether it involves a sensitive financial regulation, a defense procurement protocol, or a fundamental human rights standard, directly contradicts the safety guardrails and the political alignment programmed into that base model by developers sitting 5,000 miles away.
It's a sobering thought.
When the chips are down and the autonomous system is forced to make a choice, who does your AI agent actually work for?